Do you like roguelikes? That's fine if you don't, because I didn't think I liked them either. The idea of playing a game through, getting stronger to face off the very unforgiving challenges, only to die and lose every ounce of progress you made, yeah, it didn't appeal to me much either. But that being said, I didn't know I needed Have a Nice Death as much as I did, and neither did you. When I say this game was my most highly anticipated game of the year, that would be an understatement. While I was watching the Game Awards at the end of 2021, I was bored out of my skull. Except for one game that caught my attention. A beautifully animated 2D side-scroller that threw off the entire balance of the show. For me at least, this looked like a standout title, one that would leave a striking mark on the viewers of the show. However, nobody really watched it. And those who did watch it didn't really like it. So unfortunately, this very promising looking game got left to the wayside and was generally cut out of the view of the general audiences until its release. Me though, I was counting the days. I am a huge shill when it comes to games having a unique style paired with very appealing 2D animation. Every nerve in my body told me this game would be an absolute win start to finish. I bought this game day one and... oh jeez, how did I miss that? I think it's best to get into my small limited history with the roguelike genre. Needless to say, it didn't really appeal to me at all. I genuinely enjoy games where there is a strict progression system, from getting to grips to a satisfying challenge by the end. Roguelikes go against all of this. These games have you play through a very short 1 to 2 hour campaign, with the caveat that death will result in you going back to the start of the whole game, losing all of your upgrades, abilities, and progress. It wasn't a style of gameplay that struck a chord with me, essentially relying on luck to get you through the game as opposed to your own skill. Now the funny thing is I still agree with all of that, mostly. Before I bought Have a Nice Death, I got the chance to play another indie roguelike by the name of... Hades. Now the video today isn't going to sing the praises of this game, even though it very much deserves it. If you like roguelikes, you've already played Hades, but if you're anything like I was, play it, it's really good. But above all else, it opened my eyes to how fun and addicting roguelikes can be to play. Every aspect that I believed to be a con before coming into it became something that kept me coming back and wanting to overcome every challenge. If it weren't for Hades, I likely wouldn't have been eased into the way roguelikes function, and I can safely say that I have much more respect for the genre. With that being said, Have a Nice Death rules in every single way. To begin with, the premise sets up the game perfectly. You play as Death, a deity who eventually got bored of stealing everyone's souls, and so started a corporation to help out with his work. Over time, the sorrows he hired enjoy their job just a bit too much and begin to overflow Death in never-ending paperwork. This eventually causes Death to grow frustrated with his employees, proceeding to go on a killing spree through his company, putting them in their places so he can go on holiday. It's a very simple premise, but all that's required to set up Death as a character. It doesn't need anything more complicated since it's far more focused on its gameplay. Speaking of, the gameplay is one of its great strengths. The game is broken up by 7 departments as of now: Hall of Eternity, Industrial Pollution, Toxic Food Processing, Physical Illness, Addictions, Modern Warfare, and Natural Disaster, each broken up by different floors you can visit. Through them all, Death feels fantastic to control! You have your standard combo attack, which you can use on enemies, one on the ground, one in the air. Here's a quick dash, an upward attack, a down smash, and a charged powerful blast. Death is so responsive and flows with however you choose to play him. The movement is dynamic, and the use of a dash ability gives him so many options when taking on enemies. It's satisfying to take on hordes of goons utilizing all of your tools to take them down. But the real meat and potatoes of this game comes in the form of spells you can find along the way. These can vary to firing simple fireballs, or unleashing an entire fleet of asteroids upon your poor associates! These are absolutely the most diverse aspect of the game, with a multitude of weapons allowing for custom combos, specific use cases, and abilities that cater to many playstyles. Offense, defense, healing, bad. And the best part about these spells is that they are incredibly strong compared to their regular attack most of the time. They are so strong, in fact. You can often only use spells throughout a whole run and likely win, especially if you have the most skill toes. They home in and steal health. Why wouldn't you want? I suppose it's a small nitpick, but the power of these spells are so powerful that it renders your scythe useless unless you have some pretty bad ones in your loadout. I think scaling back the power would help balance out the combat and how you approach bosses right now. Some spells demolish bosses in seconds. But I guess that's part of the roguelike's charm, getting something overpowered randomly in a single run. So yeah, take this as you will. Now you want to discuss fun? Because these may be the single most entertaining aspects of the gameplay for me. Curses are additional effects you can acquire at some points, essentially giving you additional power, health, abilities, items, and even debuffs. These can include bleed, burn, poison effects, creating additional damage over time, curses that can increase your damage by percentages or allow the chance to strike a critical hit. There are so many that can increase your mana, allowing spells to become even more effective than they already are. You don't know power until you put all your points into mana before unleashing havoc on any poor room of enemies. That said, later in runs you will find curse effects with a drawback, such as having no access to shops, increasing enemy health, or in some insane cases, removing your HUD. The sheer diversity of combinations you can acquire on each trek through the game is staggering, allowing for some impressive builds if you have enough luck. Every time I jump back into the game, I'm inclined to try out a new curse and even complete challenge runs where I complete one tree of curses, or only choose one that puts me at a disadvantage. I know most roguelikes include features like this, but damn it, that ain't stopping me from talking about it. Now, to pepper the scenery and add boatloads of charm to the game, there are a host of employees you can talk to on multiple floors. These guys are hilarious and all share unique attributes that make this world feel much more real and lived in. Some of my favorites include Patrick, the one working the front desk, Harriet, the fitness instructor, who has no skin, and perhaps best of all, yeah, single-handedly the best employee of all, this fruit-headed, innocent hard worker known as Pumpkin. If I don't stop myself, I will go on a full rant about why she's the best character in the whole game. She tries so damn hard to organize every little thing. She's completely naive to the horror of her surroundings, so while being a very funny character, it actually provides relief from the other cynical characters. You cannot hold back smiles when you get the chance to talk to her. Over the course of the game, Death actually softens up a bit because of her and becomes very protective over her in a few heartwarming instances. And best of all, what the fuck? Yes, she is actually a boss in this game. On my most recent run, I saw this happening and I was thrown completely off. I can tell this won't be the last time she has to go through this type of turmoil from other characters in the game. For God's sake, look at the trailer for the fast food update. Point is, I love Pumpkin, the rest of the employees, and so should you. Oh yeah, and you can find more about them in the bios and the pause menu. Also, at the beginning of every run, you are approached by Jocelyn in the elevator, who provides you with contracts. These contracts can give you free spells and soulary to begin your run, which is nice. Some give you trade-offs, such as reducing your health in exchange for more mana. Others require you to complete a challenge in reward for something else. These are nice and provide some good variety to the run. Speaking of variety, the bosses of the game, the big bads, the tyrants of... These guys are present at the end of each respective department, providing the most varied challenges in the game. They personify a range of toxic habits such as addiction, pollution, and poor management. The Sorrows, as they're known as, are both challenging and extremely cruel if you're not equipped beforehand. Spells and upgrades are essential, as using only your scythe will take forever to cut through them. They're all animated beautifully to suit their personalities and telegraph their attacks very well. My favourite boss has to be Max, a twisted employee hyper-fixated on statistics of how addicted I am to this game. His phases are varied, they're fun, and it feels fair every time I get around to him. Not to say the other bosses aren't great. Brad is an excellent introductory boss, and Major Pliskin is a satisfying challenge near the end. Throughout the runs as well, you have a choice to visit Thanager offices. These are supplementary bosses, not quite as intense as the Sorrows, but are incredibly unique in their presentation and mechanics. Each relates to their specific areas of the game. A few highlights for me are Will Hung, an evil rope that is trying to kill you. That's right, this isn't Will Hung, this is Will Hung. There's this ninja, how the fuck do you pronounce? But it's a ninja burger, who uses burger pins as weapons. I can't, this is amazing. Slimer, a toxic barrel brought to life, and Sinistrosaurus, an operatic thundercloud. Most of these bosses include great variety, but their inclusion can be very stressful if it forces you to fight them. But notice how I said most. I hate him. RJ Barron may be my least favourite fight in the whole game. His attacks have no clear indicators, they have awkward timing, and he's just fucking unsettling. But overall, the bosses are a clear highlight in creativity and challenge for this game. Okay, I have no idea how I've got this long without commenting on how. It is really strange that after 2 interactions with B. Proudfoot, his dialogue just stops at the beginning of his fight. This game is absolutely one of the most visually appealing games of the entire year, without question. The 2D animation for every boss, action, NPC, background, and item is incredibly fluid and good to look at. It's genuinely a beauty on the eyes, and every frame was layered with intent and creativity. Grimes is one of my favourite fights, purely on the animation alone. I can only imagine how difficult it was to keep the sludge flowing down his body in a consistent pattern, and to adhere to the physics of his movement. The art direction of this game is incredible, and is what grabbed my attention for the game in the first place. I am a huge sucker when it comes to discussing my thoughts on the vibe of art and animation, so can you blame me for dribbling stumbling over this so much. Sometimes I just stop to look at the backgrounds of a certain area, just to see what's going on, and often it reveals more about where you're at, building on the location's variety and intent. Well, goddamn, I'm in love with the aesthetics of this game, and if you haven't been pulled on to play this game solely by looking at it, then you've never appreciated anything in your life. Now, I'll admit the music is not one of the defining factors of this game, but regardless, it is fitting for a spooky and industrialized setting. The battle themes are serviceable, but the boss themes once again shine through. The music is always appropriate to the characters' personalities and traits. Brad having some whimsy, Grimes focusing on metal, and Crank having a somewhat deep-sea feel with loads of popping, almost like a tentacle being pried off the surface. The music is enjoyable and serves the game very well. So all in all, why aren't you playing this? This is absolutely one of the most underrated games I have ever played. The fact it got so little attention from every facet of gaming really sucks, because this game has so much worthwhile content. If you have the chance, pick it up. If you enjoy roguelikes, this is a must for your collection. There's still a bunch I haven't even discussed as well, like the various weapon types you can equip, snacks and anima in the break room, the wizard character, the breakdowns. But with this game getting a full Switch release soon, hopefully it will bring more attention to the game with many more surprises. Hopefully I've given you good reason to check it out, but for now, I've got another few hundred runs to complete.